Hello, and welcome to your weekly reading for the week of the 24th of May through the 30th of May, 2021. I hope this finds you all well. It has been quite a shifting time, energetically speaking. I'm sure you'll all agree. This last week was all ups and downs. It felt like we were going in and out of different states of consciousness, and I feel like we're finally coming out the other side. And I think it's interesting because just as we emerge from all of that Mars in Cancer energy, hasn't quite shifted yet. It will in June, but we're sort of at least processing that lack of fire when there's so much else with the Uranian energy that's pushing us into the unexpected, the unanticipated, the new. So it's been a little bit of a mind fuck, excuse my language. I'm sure you're used to it by now. But this coming week we have Saturn going retrograde, and we have Mercury going retrograde. Now, of course, these are two different energies, but they kind of go hand in hand at the same time. Saturn going retrograde is really quite interesting for us because obviously that's a more prolonged retrograde. I think it goes through September, maybe longer. And what I think we're going to find is that a lot of the things that we've been struggling with will have a respite from in many ways. It's sort of an opportunity for us to go back into the curatorial aspect of our lives, where we will move more into how we tell our story to ourselves and to others. And that's a very important dynamic of our time. Sorry, I'm like struggling with my words right now. Part of the reason for that, and I will get this out of the way so that we come here, baby. Yes, okay. This is the reason why I'm so distracted. This is Enzo. Enzo is a kitten that I rescued a week ago. Exactly today, isn't that right? I know you just want to play, play, play. Anyway, it's very cute, as you can see. And it smells good too. You smell good. Okay, you can go down now. There we go. Okay. So, Saturn forcing us in many ways through a less heightened sense of breakdown, you know. But at the same time, what's important to remember is, I mean, we've done a lot of work. We are self-aware. So therefore, it's not likely that we're going to find ourselves in a position where we're getting a respite from something that is going to be problematic on the road ahead. For many people that are not so conscious, that will be their case. So there will be a reckoning at the end of the retrograde. But in our case, it's a little bit of an opportunity for us to just rearrange our actions based on the thought processes that we have broken down over the last, well, I mean, they're much deeper rooted in the last few months, but whatever you've been consciously grappling with in the last few months is sort of taking a little bit of a backseat, so that we can actually move forward and develop new pathways and actually experience growth from the lessons that we've learned. Of course, we're also in Gemini season, and Gemini season is all about curiosity, learning, sociability, community. Um, it's a very different energy from Taurus, obviously, and what you may find yourself in the position of doing is having less ability to focus on one particular thing. You may find yourself suddenly wanting to juggle a bunch of different things. Um, and it's important to remember that self-care is a part of any healthy equation. And so don't let yourself become too distracted in one place or another from your self-care, right? Because it's easy to do that. We all do it. Uh, of course, we also have the full moon, which is also a lunar eclipse this coming week. And based upon what I've learned from other people who have far more information and understanding of astrology than I do, the fact of the matter is that this is conjoining the North Node, which basically, well, the nodes basically being in Gemini and Sagittarius, that's bringing forth a lot of Gemini energy to either move into or against, depending on how you are personally determined in your chart. Anyway, that's for something for you to explore separately. However, it does mean that the energy of this full moon eclipse is really intensified, and it definitely spells a rite of passage spiritually and materially. So something to look forward to, because I think this is going to be a little bit of a portal into a very, very different dynamic. And from what I've understood of the astrology for the remainder of 2021, once June comes about, our lives are going to be very, very different than the way they've been in the first part of the year. Hard to imagine right now, but again, something to look forward to. Okay, let's get into the reading, as I am trying my very hardest to keep these shorter and sweeter for you guys. Not that that seems to help much with my viewership, because last week's video was pretty short and it got less views than any video I've made in quite some time. Again, I say all of this, I release it to the universe because obviously I can't personalize that. Obviously, I understand that people have other priorities, and I understand that my message doesn't resonate with everyone. It's a shame that people don't find value in what I do. But that's on them, right? You're here. I appreciate you. Thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. This week's Spirit Animal Oracle card is Snake Spirit, Time to Heal. Again, interesting because I think this actually gives more clarity for us on what the tone is exactly of this Saturn retrograde, Mercury retrograde. Anytime that there's a retrograde, Mercury being communication, Saturn being the delineation of time and authority and structure, this gives us the opportunity to revisit how we perceive those things, how we communicate, how we experience the structure of our lives, how we experience the sense of the finite. So that we get spirit animal of number 55, the snake, really speaks to an opportunity to, I think, put in place consciously to be aware of the healing that has taken place and to start living that out actively in our everyday lives and to build upon where we've healed. Let me read the oracle message. All of us need healing at times, and when Snake Spirit appears, it is time to repair, renew, and replenish yourself and your vulnerable heart. Self-care and maintenance work are needed so your vitality can arise. Give yourself the space to nourish your own well-being. Vulnerability is necessary for friendships and partnerships to work, which means all of us will have tender emotions at times. Be gentle with yourself and others now. Shed the past and step into a new way of being, for vitality is rising in you. This might be a good time to honor the work you have done to heal, grow, and repair any damage within you, within those who you care about, and within your community. Celebrate together how far all of you have come in your healing journey and all that you have created. Unburden yourself of anything that no longer supports wellness, prosperity, positive relationships, and well-being, and open the door for healing to occur. And I want to emphasize, um, that's something that we should all focus on framing as our mindset is, let's go into all of our relationship dynamics right now with anybody without assumption, without prejudice, without preconceived notions and prescribed standards. Let's go on the assumption that everybody has been experiencing the same energetic flow, and so therefore we've all found ourselves in the position where we've bettered ourselves, and we're more able to understand each other, and we're more able to be patient with one another, and we're more able to take a step back from our ego responses and give space to others, to trust that they have also evolved, right? And in addition to that, I also want us to pay attention to those people that are there for us and to honor and respect those people. And, I've felt quite isolated emotionally and spiritually in recent times. And, the universe always surprises us with wonderful gifts. And just last night, I actually received a communication from somebody who, on a soul level, is very dear to me, and this person was able to convey an enormous amount of vulnerability and love and generosity and kindness of the heart and spirit, and it really meant a great deal to me. And so if we can all do that for each other, we're on the right path, right? And it's a beautiful thing to make ourselves vulnerable. And our ego gets in the way all the time, saying, oh, well, the person, like, if I give an inch they'll take a mile, or they're going to assume that means that um, I have the upper hand now, for having received that, or they're not, or a person isn't going to express themselves honestly in vulnerability because they're afraid that, like, somebody else will have control over them or power over them in some way. The important thing to remember is that power is always within, that we carry our own power, and love doesn't have a measure in that way. I really am sorry about the background noise. It's something I'm sure we'll get used to. Including, I'm not just talking for you, I'm like, for me too. I'm like, quiet, why are you playing with that now? But what can you do? Kittens play. That's what they do constantly until they fall asleep, which is when they're really cute. I digress. Let me read the protection message of Snake Spirit too. No matter how much you may have lost or how you have been disappointed, you are called by Snake Spirit to shed the past and practice radical self-acceptance now. Only by forgiving yourself can you move on, regardless of whether anyone else is ready for healing. When your tender new skin first becomes exposed, you may feel uncomfortable. Love yourself and remain vulnerable anyway. You have been weak. but now you are becoming strong and developing wisdom, and you will do better in the future. Snake Spirit reminds you that hearts can be so easily wounded. Apologies and amends go a long way. Self-forgiveness for your role in what happened can help you heal. Remember, it is the one who has been wounded who often has the greatest power to help others heal. Of course. Just as a little like tonality reminder, I pulled one Wisdom of the Oracle card, my least favorite deck, which I always say, and I feel bad for saying it, but I probably need to get some new Oracle cards just to have a little bit more, some more options. But anyway, we got the Yin card. Always interesting because the fact that we have a healing energy on the horizon that marks the week to come, and we have yin. It's when we come back into our yin that we find the healing. So remember that. Of course, we also get our Sacred Destiny Oracle cards, and we got 3 of those. The first is Flow. Beautiful full moon there. Always good to have a reminder of the full moon when we are coming up to a full moon eclipse. I will read the message from Flo, but we also got Thriving and Truth. The Truth card always comes out. Always a reminder that there is no healing without truth. And the idea that we weaponize truth because we talk about truth as being, we say truth, the truth hurts. The truth only hurts if we're not in acceptance of the truth, if we're resisting it, if we're trying to narrate our story differently, like we're trying to curate our lives differently. That's not the purpose of spirituality. Spirituality is all about coming into flow, and flow means acceptance and openness. There is no threat in flow, right? There's no boundary, there's no barrier, there's no obstacle. Excuse me. Okay. It is represented apparently by a meandering river. I wouldn't have exactly called that a meandering river, but it is a beautiful image nonetheless. It actually looks a lot like the river where I grew up in France. The Rhone. A meandering river is a waterway that curves, bends, turns, and seems to swing side to side as it flows forward. Viewed from above, it looks sinuous and even snake-like. Snake, see? Meandering rivers are dynamic as they wind their way across valley floors and bring life-giving sediment to new habitats. The word meander was derived from the ancient Meander River, which flows into the Aegean Sea. The Greeks created symbols for meander that have been described as some of the most important symbols for the ancient Greek culture. They represented the fluid movement of water and the eternal flow of all life. The twisting patterns were also thought to represent the serpent, which was the symbol of healing. Hence, our present-day symbol for doctors is the caduceus. Interesting. The landscape wants you to know that there are times to hold on tight to the shore and there are times to enter the flow. Notice where life is going and move in that direction. Watch for signs and follow them. Don't resist. When you go with the flow, your life force expands and heals on all levels abounds. What? Your life force expands and healing on all level abounds. Sorry. This is also the time to release old limiting patterns, forgive, and let go of the need to be right about your beliefs. If you aren't feeling the smooth currents of life, it might mean that you're being self-critical or judgmental. When you enter the flow with gratitude and love, you will find blessings surrounding you. You will enter into a state of grace and healing will abound. And I really do think it's like we've reached a leveling up. We've We've done it, you know? But now it's like we kind of have to like live it, which I suppose is probably where thriving comes in. So let's read thriving. So another beautiful image. The moon's up there again, as you can see. The sacred landscape wants you to know that if you draw this card, you are a survivor. And not only do you survive, but you use situations that others might find challenging to thrive. You expand when others shrink. This may be the time to adapt to your circumstances rather than be overcome by them. Flow, of course. You have a remarkable ability to step beyond any challenge. You're strong. Others may find shelter in your energy, and right now that's okay. Through giving to others, you are in turn nourished. This card may be urging you to step into your primal, primordial, powerful, wild part of yourself, that is. Doing this will increase your vitality and contribute to your overall well-being. And it's an important point in there to remember, because I think that we can, as empaths and spiritually aware people, we tend to put ourselves in the spirit of giving, and we have been conditioned to think of unconditional giving as being a embodiment of love, and it is. But when you measure the sense of what you're not receiving in return, that becomes confusing. And of course, that's egoic, but we all get stuck in that, right? So let's also focus on that as an exercise this week to think, the flow is also allowing ourselves to give unconditionally without expecting anything in return, because when we are spiritually clear, we know that we are receiving because we're being heard. People need us. People rely on us. Whether that's 2 people or 100 people or 50 million people. An important thing to remember. And I think that the truth card, I don't need to read that because I think that's fundamentally there. It came right behind the thriving card. They came out together just to remind us that we thrive on the truth. Our purpose and our goal should always be based on authenticity and the truth, no matter what. And let's try to find more empathy and compassion for those who struggle to embrace the truth, because that is what we're here for. We're not here to separate. We're not here to diminish the importance of others who perhaps aren't, focused on the same things or who are distracted. Everyone is, the system is rigged against all of us. We're all being prevented on some level from entering our higher state of consciousness, of fulfilling our full spectrum of purposefulness. That's society is rigged to do that, to keep us small, dependent, out of control, out of our own power, in submission. But your sovereign authenticity trumps all of that, right? And you have to remind yourself of that constantly, especially in these times, because a lot of the energy is quite embattling in that way, So, again, a nice reminder. Okay, let's get into the tarot. Enzo, what are you doing? It's very distracting. Could you not play with one of your less noisy toys? Okay, our underlying energy of the week, and I know you're probably groaning when you see this. This is a good thing that this is our underlying energy, because it's actually what we're leaving behind. We've reached the Ten of Swords. And again, I know that we're constantly going through this evolutionary process, and it can seem a little daunting to constantly be in the position of saying like, oh, we've leveled up. It's a new karmic cycle that's been reached. But, thank goodness that we're having that, you know? Thank goodness we keep coming to these endings. Thank goodness we keep leveling up and understanding our process better, you know, because it would be horrible if we couldn't do that. And what is the Ten of Swords? The Ten of Swords is, you know, again, what we have to remember is it's a surrender. You know, we accumulate these nine swords. The 10 swords. What's the Nine of Swords? The Nine of Swords is the card of worry, chaos, all in the mind, all of our thoughts that we've built up that like keep us in fear, that keep us in chain. You know, the Eight of Swords before that is all the limitation that we place upon ourselves. The Nine of Swords is then those swords, those ideas, those expectations getting in our way, preventing us from moving forward, preventing us from expanding, making us limited rather than limitless. And then we get to the Ten of Swords, and it's like, yeah, initially it's like, this is too much. I can't keep going on with all these swords. So, you know, we get the idea that the person is, you know, overcome. But actually, if you truly look at this card, you know, I mean, it's not like these swords are gory, you know, there's no blood and guts everywhere. So, you know, you got to think of them as being thoughts rather than, you know, physical wounds. But this symbol here, the way that that hand is, you know, that represents from a mythical perspective that all you see is not all there is. There's way more to be seen than meets the eye, in other words. And look at how calm the subconscious process is now between earth and air. The water is calm. There's beautiful clearing on the horizon, right? So this is when we get back up and start anew, refreshed, healed. And what are we leaving behind? I am going to read the general for the Osho Zen Tarot of the week too, because that gives us context before we get into the nitty-gritty. We got conditioning. And here's what conditioning has to tell us. And remember, we've had these cards many times, so you probably will be familiar with the story of the lion and the sheep, but let's remind ourselves because it's an ongoing egoic process, you know. This card recalls an old Zen story about a lion who was brought up by sheep and who thought he was a sheep until an old lion captured him, took him to a pond where he showed him his own reflection. Many of us are like this lion. The image we have of ourselves comes not from our own direct experience, but from the opinions of others. A personality imposed from the outside replaces the individuality that could have grown from within. We become just another sheep in the herd until it's unable to move freely and unconscious of our own true identity, authenticity, right? It's time to take a look at your own reflection in the pond and make a move to break out of whatever you have been conditioned by others to believe about yourself. Dance, run, jog, do gibberish, whatever is needed to wake up the sleeping lion within. And I'm going to just stick to that being the message so far because I don't need to read the rest of that. The reason why that's an important card, along with the Ten of Swords, is also to look at it. This is a completion energy. I would say it's the end of Taurus season. That's what this is all about because it's all about self-esteem, self-worth. This conditioning reminds us of that, right? It's basically saying to us, you know, all that whole structure of going through the 3 decans of Taurus, you know, takes us through, you know, the first 9 degrees are, you know, the inner self. Then we move into the outer expression of worth, and then we come into the last decan is the fusion of those, the synergy of those, which is where we find the growth. So it makes perfect sense that we come into that understanding, that we get to the point where we're able to actually understand our worth outside of our ego. And every year we go through this cycle, we get a leveling up, you know? So it's another opportunity where it's like, okay, like, well, I mean, of course, circumstantially speaking, it just so happens that it corresponds for many of us, you know, just as we moved past the inner self-worth struggle and when we were externalizing it, our society started opening up more, right? We started having more opportunity to flow socially, to test those boundaries after, you know, ostensibly a good year and a bit removed from all of those structures. So you've had a lot of time for that leveling up, as has everyone. So it's important to remember that maybe having stepped away from social conditioning, you know, that time in lockdown and whatever has given us more of an opportunity to be with ourselves and to understand our true nature and, you know, who we are, what makes us tick, what makes us happy, what we truly missed being in lockdown, what we truly missed in our sociability, you know, and in many cases what we didn't, right? So coming back into the self, having a better understanding of who we truly are is really the gateway to um, spiritual fulfillment and love. Um, okay, so we are represented by the King of Wands right now, which is pretty fiery. Interestingly, considering that we're now in those first degrees of Gemini, where that's really about what turns us on, what excites us, what are we curious to learn about, what type of personality traits serve us best socially at this point. That's sort of the process of discovery that we're going through right now. The King of Wands is a card of great self-confidence, so it really expresses in my mind the idea that, you know, the way that we're going to experience that right now is through our socialization process, understanding our value, the value of our openness socially. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I hope so. Um, because if you've gone through your worth, your self-worth, and you've come out of it not destroyed, but actually reinforced, that's the process that you're going to go into socially. Uh, what we're coming out of, thank goodness, what was holding us back, which we obviously saw a lot in readings over the last 6, maybe 12 months even. These two came out together, the Four of Swords and the Four of Pentacles. So you can't even, like, this is like poverty consciousness, like holding on to like what we have, feeling as though like we'll never have more and we have to hold on for dear life to what we have because God forbid that we lose something, we would no longer have our identity, we wouldn't know who we are. But of course, if you hold on too tight, you can't really gain anything else, right? Of course. And this is that mindset that arises as a result of that, is that even though there's a divine cup on offer to this person, he's just sitting there with his arm folded, completely uninterested in either the 3 cups that he has or the cup that's on offer. He's too focused on what he doesn't have. He's jaded, basically. So we're leaving this energy behind once and for all. That is really the clarifier on what this Ten of Swords is. And of course, the conditioning, letting go of the sheep element within ourselves to refocus on the individual authenticity that we carry, our true nature. Of course, that like makes us go beyond because we're no longer afraid of losing. We're not trying to hold on to things in order to stay the same as others, you know? That becomes very boring and dull, let's be honest. And we all need to let go of that. So I hope that's happening for you. Um, The driving force of all of this, of the new energetic flow of this Gemini season, is here in the Three of Cups. The Three of Cups is a card of celebration. It's a card of community, communion, finding commonality, and equality, and looking for the synergistic element in everything that we experience. I don't know if we really need a clarifier on that, but it's a very broad energy that's coming through, so maybe we do. We got the Ace of Pentacles, so I think a lot of, we're in an air season again with Gemini, right? So a lot of this is about, how do we ground ourselves without falling into the Four of Pentacles energy, without being in that holding on for dear life, it's being open to new opportunities. That's fundamental to that celebratory element. It's like going with the flow. In other words, let's say, I don't know, Gina, the most annoying person that you know, I don't know who Gina is, but I'm just saying, she's like going like, oh, let's go out for like tapas, and you're just like, that's the only prospect that I have socially, like what a nightmare. Well, if you let go of that mentality, I'm making this very simplistic, I'm sure you understood that, but if that's the mentality that you let go of, you're like, you know what, Gina's giving me this opportunity, it may not be about Gina herself, it may be who else I'll meet if I go out with Gina or whatever. You have to move beyond those restrictions, and that's what this Ace of Pentacles is reminding us of. The moving beyond prejudice, moving beyond judgment, moving beyond a narrative of restriction takes us to a place of expansion, right? I wish you could see, like you can't see. I wonder if I can do that. That's where Enzo sleeps, on that pillow over there. It's a little windy outside, so he's like listening to the wind. In our legacy position, we have a legacy card. So again, this sets the tone for what our next karmic path is, where this next comeuppance is going to be. And here we have the 10 of Cups. So the way I'm going to put that for you to be as simple as possible, and I'll speak from a more personal perspective in order to clarify that, is the 10 of Cups is, obviously cups are emotions. So I would say that a lot of our energy thus far has been focused on restabilizing ourselves from a material perspective, then reformatting our thought process, like here, having to rethink all of our values, and then, as a result of that, what logically comes next is our emotions, cups, our emotional fulfillment. Now we start at the very beginning of a journey towards understanding how to become emotionally fulfilled without all of those restrictions from thoughts that we've been holding on to for so long. Now, it's interesting, there's not a whole bunch of ones in this reading, but we do, of course, we are represented by this King of Wands. So that is also stipulating in my mind that we have to come with our own self-confidence and our own inspiration. in order to feed this process. That's a given. That's where we're at. We're thirsty for new experiences. That is what inspiration is, right? Is wanting to move into unknown territory in our drive, right? Not in our thoughts, but in our drive. We're not getting clarifier for the Ten of Cups, which stands to reason because we're not even at the Ace of Cups with this reading right now. We're, this is just an indication of what the next chapter, cycle, should I say, rather than chapter, is going to be all about. Now, our future energy is the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords in this case is a good counterpart to that King of Wands energy, because our King of Wands is us carrying that inspiration, self-confidence, authority on our attractiveness, our it's our aura in many ways. If you want to look at it more from a spiritual perspective, excuse me. The Queen of Swords in her elevated state carries a wisdom that is firm but open. Again, another card of great self-confidence, self-belief, but also a thirst for new knowledge. Because, the feminine in as an authority figure is open, is flow, it's flow. These two cards are actually, they go hand in hand. This here is pretty much what she's open to. So, apply that to yourself how you will. And our advice card on getting into this Queen of Swords energy, the Two of Pentacles under the Two of Cups. So, because this is really representative of what we are leaving behind. As you probably remember from recent readings, those of you that have been watching them consistently will know how often the Two of Pentacles have come up. And of course, we always refer to the Two of Pentacles as juggling. It's like really being out of balance all the time and trying to sort of shift between two paradigms, two perceptions of reality, two dynamics within and without. And it's exhausting, first of all, and it doesn't really work very well for us. The Two of Cups, on the other hand, is where we know how to fill our own cup. And in knowing how to fill our own cup, we can therefore attract that in other people. There's that caduceus. So it's like we know how to be in law of attraction emotionally now, which is something that probably sounds very basic, but I'm sure you can agree, if you're really in your authenticity and your honest truthfulness towards yourself, that has been lacking. It's been very difficult to be authentically open emotionally, because we've all felt so threatened, and going through that process of understanding our trauma and being, that's required of us to sort of go into the victim mode to then be able to temper that, to come out of it. And now that we're coming out, we have come out of that victim mode. I mean, this week ahead, this full moon is a paradigm shift. You will feel it. You might not be able to delineate it exactly right now, or even exactly at the time of the full moon, But, the full moon energy is 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. So it's like a month of shifting. And by the time we've completed that cycle 2 weeks after the full moon, once we get to the next new moon, I'm pretty sure that you're going to understand exactly what that means about being in Two of Cups energy and having left the Two of Pentacles energy behind. It's when we are, we're no longer, what the implication is the Two of Pentacles is when we can't actually really, the mirror terrifies us. Not just our own mirror, the reflection of ourselves, in other words, but also the mirror that we see in other people. Rather than being an acceptance of the image that we get in return from others, we're fighting it, and we feel the need to juggle and shift our image and our values in order to accommodate other people that keeps us out of alignment, or it's all projection. It's what we think other people want from us. Here, we move into understanding and accepting that we are a mirror image of each other at all times. And so if you do this, it's a reflection of something within me. If you behave this way, this is a reflection of something within me, and vice versa. And we go into flow with that. And that is ultimately what allows us to thrive. And at the very basis of all of that flow and thriving is the truth. Truth. And if you struggle with that, then, don't be hard on yourself. Think about what truth is, and maybe that's just why I didn't read the meaning of truth before, but let's read it now so that we are reminded of the fundamentals of truth. Be honest with yourself and speak from your heart. Find your truth. Listen for what is sincere and honest in others. One of the most difficult things to know is what's true for you and what isn't. Sometimes it takes sincere silence to find your inner voice of truth. But once you find it, let go of anything in your life that isn't authentic. Share your truth with others. Release relationships in which you can't be yourself and can't be real. Yes. Of course. Being genuine can allow your spirit to fly and the song of your soul to be heard in the universe, which is exactly what this was all about, This is a person that cannot be in truth. And this is the yin-yang within us, to be embraced. That's what this is. These two, I wish I could show you this because I can't really do that. I wish I could make it, what are those things called? Try something or others, I can't remember, but like this, of course I can't do that because I don't have the dexterity to do that, but you get the drift. Those go together like that. There's none of that, it's out of alignment. And what is our outcome? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Empress, fertility, opportunity, inspiration, wealth, being in oneness with Mother Earth, with nature, the flow. That is the flow, right? It's like I always hear that. It's so funny because we talk so much about, we hear people endlessly talking about saving the planet, saving the environment, saving the dolphins, saving this, saving that, humanity needs to focus on saving itself, which, if you take responsibility for healing yourself, then you don't have to worry about the earth. The earth is doing her thing regardless, So are the animals, so is everyone else, They just need humans to get in the Empress space. So beautiful that we have that. There we have the Two of Wands holding the world in our hands because we respect it. And those two wands are opportunity, inspiration, divine inspiration. It's when we no longer just have one vision, but we see the multiplicity, and we see the infinite possibilities, and we find ourselves constantly in flow with those, and there's no burnout, there's no limited supply. Our outcome Osho Zen advice card of the week that gives us a sense of where we need to work on ourselves and what will carry us through. Inner voice. We had that recently, I feel. So let me see what that is. I don't know. What is the inner voice? I think it's the Empress. So let's read that. So Empress is strong on the table for us. The inner voice speaks not in words, but in the wordless language of the heart. It is like an oracle who only speaks the truth. If it had a face, it would be like the face at the center of this card, alert, watchful, able to accept both the dark and the light, symbolized by the two hands holding the crystal. The crystal itself represents the clarity that comes from transcending all dualities. The inner voice can also be playful as it dives deep into the emotions and emerges again to soar towards the sky, like two dolphins dancing in the waters of life. It is connected with the cosmos through the crescent moon crown and the earth as represented by the green leaves on the figure's kimono. There are times in our lives when too many voices seem to be pulling us this way and that. Our very confusion in such situations is a reminder to seek silence and centering within. Only then are we able to hear our truth. If you have found your truth within yourself, there is nothing more in this whole existence to find. Truth is functioning through you. When you open your eyes, it is truth opening his eyes. When you close your eyes, it is truth who is closing its eyes. This is a tremendous meditation. If you can simply understand the device, you don't have to do anything. Whatever you are doing is being done by truth. You are walking, it is truth. You are sleeping, it is truth resting. You are speaking, it is truth speaking. You are silent, it is the truth that is silent. This is one of the most simple meditation techniques. Slowly, slowly, everything settles by this simple formula, and then there is no need for technique. When you are cured, you throw away the meditation, you throw away your medicine. Then you live as truth, alive, radiant, contented, blissful, a song unto yourself. Your whole life becomes a prayer without any words, or better to say, a prayerfulness, a grace, a beauty, which does not belong to the mundane world, a ray of light coming from the beyond into the darkness of our world. And of course, we had that very recently. I do remember that, but I feel like it was in a totally different context. It was in a context of need. We needed that guidance. We needed that to pull us out of a darkness, probably pulling us out of this Four of Pentacles, Four of Cups energy. And we're out of that now. You know, this is the cap on understanding. We're beyond that. We are beyond the conditioning. But the truth, that exercise that we just read about of the inner voice and what truth is, that's just a reminder that that's what we have to do. We have to remind ourselves, we have to get that reflection back. Remind yourself who you are. Who are you? In all your value and worth, everything that you are, everything that you have accomplished, everything that you have become, that is value. No matter whether anybody's validating it for you or not, you are valuable, infinitely valuable. And that is all you need to remember. On that note, I wish you a delightful, exciting, adventurous time as we move into this new portal. May that full moon really set you free the way that I know it will. But try to be conscious of it and set some intentions and do a little ritual. Okay? I love you very much. I wish you infinite blessings. Namaste.